What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Primetime Draft Talk Podcast, Episode 1. My name is Alex Barber. This is my co-host, Mason Thompson, and we're glad to have you here. Obviously, we're going to be doing this every single week. We're going to schedule out exactly what the times are so you guys can always know when to check back in for the best podcast on the channel. But I'm just going to quickly introduce myself, and I'll let Mason introduce himself as he's like barely dying of laughter over there. My name is Alex Barber. I am kind of a more new draft analyst, have been doing it for a while, but have been doing it more professionally for just under a year now. I have my own YouTube talk show, and it's called the Hail Mary Podcast. We'll have a link down in the description if our editor does not mess that up. Love you, MJ. But yeah, I'm a 19-year-old. I go to SMU. I'm right now, I used to be a sport management major, but obviously I'm now in real estate just because it's a confusing life, guys. It's a confusing life, but I love the draft. I've been doing it. I talked with my buddy every single day for like a couple of years now about prospects. I've just loved it so much. Draft day was always something I was so excited to see. And you know what? I want to do something during COVID, and it made my day to be able to have something that I could prove, I can show to you guys that I actually knew what the heck I was talking about. And you know what? Best thing in the world I've ever done. So obviously, for you guys who are watching, maybe the very few, maybe the very many of you, always drop down comments down below. Always have criticism for us because we are always willing to learn because we want to make the best stuff for you. Now, Mason, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and how we met.
So my name is Mason, obviously. I have been doing some draft stuff since I was about 12, which, wasn't the greatest because as a Packers fan, I kind of skewed the draft content to the Packers. For instance, I had J.J. Watt falling to us that year. And obviously that didn't happen, although it may seem like he's going to be a Packer now. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. But until recently, I'd say about 2 years ago, I didn't really pay much attention to the full draft until, again, 2 years ago. The full 7 rounds were nothing really I paid attention to. I paid attention to mostly the first 2 rounds. And up until 2018, that's all I did. The last 3 years, I've pretty much dived really deep into this. I am currently taking a semester at the Scouting Academy with Dan and all them. So it's really, I'm trying to make myself a future into this. I'm actually trying to get an internship at some of the schools here in Wisconsin, potentially, as I'm looking to transfer. But I like to say that myself as the lead head draft content guy at Primetime, along with Alex. Okay. Both of us have done a lot of the scouting reports. I'd say about 80% of the scouting reports have been done by us. But the way we met is kind of interesting to me, at least. I was scrolling through YouTube one day and I looked in my recommended videos and I saw this Hail Mary podcast video with a mock draft in it. So I watched it, obviously, and I found it pretty interesting. And I kind of commented on this post, said, hey, I kind of put some of my comments for the Packers, obviously, and some other teams. And we kind of got talking. I asked him what his Twitter was, and he told me that he didn't really use his personal Twitter. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, wait a minute, I'll just give it to you in his own YouTube comment section. So, I mean, kind of not the greatest idea from my standpoint anyway. But then we kind of messaged back and forth a little bit. I got to know that he is a Steelers fan. And then randomly out of the blue one day, since we were looking for more writers at Primetime Sports Talk, I asked him, hey, are you interested in writing about the NFL draft? And of course, he sent me a message yeah, obviously. So that's kind of how, and ever since we've kind of just been talking a lot, pretty much almost every day is about something draft related. Like recently this week, we've talked about Jalen Mayfield and Lee Meichenberg. So it's just kind of interesting because for me, at least, because a lot of the friends that I've met are through online. So it's let's add another one, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, freaking Taylor Swift could write a love story off of that. We might have provided a new song for the future just by your damn story. But obviously, yeah, we've had quite a funny interaction. Obviously, recommended videos, been doing it for a little bit. But you know what? You guys aren't here to always hear about our damn stories. You guys are here for some good draft content. So you guys know who we are. And today we're going to be going on a certain topic that's kind of more broad. We're going to talk about the stuff that most people have a relative gauge for, and that's the first round. So obviously Mason and I, being scouts, we probably have different first round prospects than most people. So today I'm going to be showing you my big board. So I usually have about 150 players on it, but I'm going to show you my top 32, maybe show you a little bit more to see who didn't really make the cut. But trust me, there's some guys who you probably don't think should be at certain spots, different rankings. And I'm sure Mason definitely has those same ideas. So Mason's a little bit more particular with having to grade almost every single guy, but I am much more of a touchy-feely guy until like I get a really good feeling on them. So we're gonna have some definite differences. You guys need to stay tuned for it because we're probably gonna argue about different spots as well. Let's kick into this though. So I'm obviously going to share my screen with you guys, and this is not official. It is like kind of official, but it's not really that official of a 2021 draft board. This will of course change as scouting progresses. We learn more information, combine statistics, stuff like that. So I just wanted to, of course, we wish that we could have this screen be a little bit bigger. I could just flip it to one person like Mason. Don't want to look at his face all the time. No one wants to look at his face all the time. But we could, I wish I could make this bigger for you guys. Fortunately, the user interface for Zoom is a little bit of a hindrance. We're just going to work with it though. So starting off, here is my top 10 prospects right here. Obviously, notable changes compared to a lot of different people. I have Kyle Pitts above Zach Wilson, Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons. These guys who, I mean, Kyle Pitts, everything, I'm pretty sure everybody thinks he's at least a top 10, if not top 5 prospect, but positional value, he's kicked down a bit. Just did a scouting report myself on the website. So huge fan of Kyle Pitts there. Huge fan of Zach Wilson as well. People are trying to say he's better than T-Law. I said he's better from a clean pocket than T-Law, especially with jump ball placement. But again, the NFL doesn't have clean pockets 24/7. That's the big thing. Quarterbacks who are just used to sitting on their ass in the middle of a clean pocket. It kind of is a rude awakening when you get to the NFL. But I mean, we've seen we'll talk about guys like Mac Jones and Alabama's, like they're surgeons to basically being the best every single year versus guys like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence that bring no-name schools like Clemson, guys similar to Joe Burrow and LSU, bringing them up to actual competition levels. So other guys who are notable in here, Micah Parsons. So there's a lot of character concerns with Micah Parsons. Of course, Mason can pop in on this as well, but Micah Parsons has had some issues with his personality, his maturity levels. My OCD is going off, so we are going to be recentering this. But he has had some pretty big concerns, especially with fighting, being extremely immature. And for me, whenever I hear about character concerns, I instantly like see where they are on my draft board and double it. So I had Parsons at 3, and I was projecting that Sewell would go number 2 to the Jets, and then Parsons 3 to, like, back when I originally thought about this, Parsons 3 to the Dolphins. I was perfectly fine with that. So double it, get to 6. Fields, it's a project. Mason, you want to talk at all about Fields?
I mean, I think we're kind of in the same spot on Fields. As you'll see, I'm a bit lower on Fields than you are, but we both have Lawrence at our first quarterback and then Wilson as number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few more questions with Fields than I think you do. Yeah. I didn't see the accuracy that a lot of people said that he has. I saw a lot of hits and misses, like inconsistency. That was my biggest concern, and the fact that it is well known that he cannot get off his first read very quickly. That is something at the next level that is going to need to happen like that. So for me anyway, I wasn't high. I mean, I still have a first round grade on him, but for me, it was Zach Wilson was far and away the right prospect to me. Like, yeah, I think that Zach Wilson, like you say the same thing as Marcus Whitman, who's a YouTuber that we both watch. Mm-hmm. We think that Wilson is closer to Trevor Lawrence than we think that Fields is closer to Wilson.
100% true. I would just say this. I think Justin Fields has more potential than any quarterback in the class. I think he has the best arm strength. So I have a difference between throw strength and arm strength. I think honestly, Zach Wilson's arm strength is pretty mediocre to subpar. If you see his off-platform throws where he doesn't have a solid base, like even when he's running, if he doesn't throw with the perfect form, his balls die really quickly. So something I just saw Justin Fields is he can, similar to Trey Lance as well, when they don't get to generate leg power, their arms have insane torque. So I think that if he goes to a situation like Atlanta, which is my dream destination for him, he can learn from a quarterback that is much better at progressions, like Matt Ryan, and be able to be a little bit better, like with being able to process the game, especially sitting. It could be similar to Patrick Mahomes. And Someone brought this up very recently. They said like some of the best prospects we've seen in the past few years have been more raw. Like if you look at Patrick Mahomes, they look at Trubisky that draft. He was the most surefire thing day one. But then Mahomes, obviously that's a big exception. But Mahomes came in and he was super raw. But teams see that potential, and then if they sit him for a year, could be a great thing. I think Justin Fields may be similar. I am not going to put my stamp of approval on it though. So that's why I have him there. Obviously, this is another controversy here. I got Jalen Waddle above Devontae Smith, but really, who cares? It's 8 and 9. Like they just both need to fit their own niche a little bit differently. I think Jalen Waddle, he's more complete as like a true gadget weapon. He's somebody you could probably target in all lengths of the field, but I try to get Devontae Smith away from the center of the field where you get the heavy hitting safeties and linebackers. I'm going to be honest, I want to keep him more to the outside. So, like, I would definitely try to be like more cautious with his small frame. Again, people saying Marvin Harrison, this dude said he's returning to Alabama to be more pro ready and add another like 10, 15 pounds. This guy couldn't do anything, and he's 23, will be at least 23 when he plays. So,
another thing I'd like to mention with that is I think on the Alabama site it says he's like 174, something like that. Mm-hmm. And those websites tend to have like a 10-pound increase. So is he really 175 or is he closer to 160, which is I weigh 160. So
yeah. So a big problem with that as well is when we see their pro day numbers. I worked out in the same exact facility as a guy like Ed Oliver. So I was there with Dwayne Escridge, Ed Oliver, like these guys who are really high end prospects, and including Greedy Williams. And I literally heard verbatim Ed Oliver say, like, he talked to my nutritionist. He was like, dude, I'm going to be weighing 290, chug 2 gallons of water, and end up being over 300 pounds and run a 3.8 second 40-yard dash. So things like that, we have to also take that into account. Obviously, Kyler Murray probably gelled the crap out of his hair when they said he was 5'10" and like 3/4. That's complete BS. So like we can't even trust these numbers. Mason's 100% correct with that. And you look at Devontae Smith, the dude's a poor beanpole. I literally am messing up with the UI so bad, but he's literally a beanpole when you watch him. So it is a huge concern for me. Next, this is a big shocker to some people. Caleb Farley at 1, and then watching Surtain be my cornerback 3. I was really heavily set on Surtain. We're gonna go through every position group eventually. I'm gonna let Mason show off his board really soon, but I want to just note this especially with JC Horn in front of Surtain, which I think Mason has as well. Caleb Farley, again, it's just the pure raw talent. Guy had like a 26 quarterback rating when targeted in his redshirt freshman year. Like that's pretty good, right? I don't know. So it's mediocre. Like obviously throwing the ball around, only a 39 NFL passer rating. So he looks really good, especially size, speed, pressability. He's going to be a really good guy. I project him to the Broncos. So we'll take deeper dives into this as time goes on. Big shocker. This is my guy of the draft, Elijah Molden. I have ins with multiple teams, and especially some scouting groups of certain teams. And they have confirmed that Elijah Molden is in the NFL ranked as the only day one prospect at nickel or slot corner. Day one. And there are teams that, in quotes, desperately need a slot/nickel corner. And Elijah Molden, to me, is better than JC Horn. Just the fact that you can't go out of slot/nickel, put him down here. Just going along, let's see if there's anything else like really crazy to talk about. Huge fan of Zaven Collins. Mason is as well. Just the potential there. If he gets his head in the game, then he's going to be great. As a player, he's excellent. As a person, with his like laziness on the field sometimes, with effort. And then I've heard some insider reports from kids at Tulsa saying that he's actually not a very nice guy. Could be some reasons why he fall. He might suck in interviews. We never know. Kadarius Toney is something that Mason and I disagree on, and I'll let him go into that a little bit more. But again, he was the first prospect I ever saw. Only reason I ever got into scouting was because I saw this guy and I wanted to track him throughout his career and see him go in the NFL. Just a fun fact about me. AVT, another thing, Mason knows a lot more about him. He did a full report on him. Gonna let him talk about that. Jalen, also Mason's boy, because he definitely wants him to probably fall to the Packers, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I mean, if he falls to us and one of like Zaven Collins isn't on the board, then I will gladly take Mayfield. He's a really young prospect that can develop into a star right tackle when we have a hole right there right now. So
absolutely. So obviously Jalen Mayfield among the hopeful for the Packers, which again, given his age, he probably could be taken as high as the 14th pick. You never know. We could be seeing the Vikings try to get younger with Kirk Cousins aging and potentially leaving off Kirk Cousins there. Just other, like, we're ending off right here, so I'll show you guys a couple guys who didn't make it. Like, there's one that I'm highlighting right now, but guys who made it in here who are not usually. Both Mason and I love this guy, Dwayne Escridge. Only reason that I have him down at 31 instead of higher, because I think his talent's better, the fact that the dude's gonna be 24. So obviously there's not much more room for growth, but this guy is absolutely amazing in all levels of the field with the balls in his hands. And just think about him this way: if you guys have never watched him, think about playing Madden, and then it's press coverage with some really garbage corners on an elite high speed wide receiver, and you put a slant route and he just like burns them and you just take it to the house. That's Dwayne Escridge. Just watch him, have fun. That's gonna be great. And again, Liam Eichenberg, watched him very recently. So obviously guys who didn't make the cut, you'll see them. We'll talk about them in the time that we have another episode, but I want to make sure that we get more to what Mason has to do as well, because this is a 2-person podcast. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so you guys can look at our mugs once again, which is wonderful. And Mason, if you want to be popping up your screen as well, we'll just transition straight to your board. Obviously, we are going to have some changes, and I'll let Mason deal with that.
So first off, what you'll see with mine is I do not have Trevor Lawrence at number 1. That's not a knock on him, because I agree with a lot of the other scouts in our community anyway, and a lot of the other ones in the national spotlight, the ESPN and NFL and all that. I just think that Penei Sewell is a franchise-changing left tackle, or if you can even say, like in the Jets case, if they decide to take Sewell instead of a quarterback, they have 2 monster tackles now with Mekhi Becton and Sewell. Again, I think if I am correct, we have Kyle Pitts in the same spot at number 3. You made the same point that I want to make, is he's a tight end. Well, he's pretty much a glorified wide receiver. He plays a tight end position apparently that will drop him down the board. Similar to you, I do have Jalen Waddle over Javonte Smith. You'll see another wide receiver in the middle, though. That is a somewhat hot take by me. I do love Rashad Bateman. He was one of the first receivers that I watched in this class, along with another receiver you'll see kind of shortly in the teens.
One thing I'd like to say on that, I actually thought Tyler Johnson was better. I'm gonna be honest. That's why I'm lower on Bateman. I watched Tyler Johnson and I loved him. The fact he went to the 5th round to the Buccaneers.
Oh yeah.
Like I can't believe that. So I'll let you continue with that. But
I thought the same thing with Tyler Johnson. I thought he was really good. The reason why he dropped was kind of a interesting story during draft time. Was most of his agents didn't really tell him to work out at the combine, which was a very interesting decision. So as a result, he dropped to the 5th round and is in a perfect situation in Tampa Bay now, where he won a Super Bowl ring in his rookie year. The main reason why I have Bateman over Devontae Smith is, like we mentioned earlier, Devontae Smith's frame. I do not think that, like you said earlier, if you have him running over the middle of the field, he's going to get lit up a time or two each game. Bateman has a solid frame. I comped him to Kenny Galladay in my scouting report. I think any team like a Detroit or Chicago that needs that Kenny Galladay or Allen Robinson type body, you can get that Bateman in the 1st round or early 2nd for Detroit. You, like me, you had Caleb Farley as your number 1 corner. I have not done my tape study on J.C. Horn, but from the little I've watched, I've been enamored by him. He is the son of Joe Horn, so he has the ball skills that a lot of corners in this draft don't have. Mm-hmm. There isn't much of a difference, obviously, since J.C. Horn's right here, Patrick Surtain's at 12, and Caleb Farley's at 16. There isn't – those are the top 3 corners in the class by a mile. You'll see some corners later on that I like currently. I should have said this before, but I haven't really completely done all tape study on these players. I've only done 40 full reports on these guys. So you'll get some guys that are left off that I'll probably be higher on at the end of the season. And another thing you'll notice here is that there is no positional value taken into place here. There is a small gap between Travis Etienne and Javonte Williams for the number 1 back for me. I did our scouting report on Javonte Williams, and he is one of the best backs that I've watched. Obviously, Etienne's on another level. And similar to your board, I did have Christian Darrisaw ahead of Rashawn Slater.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to go into that reason why? Because I think our reasoning is pretty much the same thing.
Okay, yeah, sure. So Rashawn Slater, we can't deny his talent. right? We've seen him. He had, I believe, 15 snaps against Chase Young, handled him apparently very well. Rashawn Slater, he has all the talent in the world. And actually, from the tape I saw, this is confirmed by it. He has very big length issues. So I saw him getting to the hit, like getting to first contact after they hit him. So that's a little bit worrisome with hand technicians in the NFL, as well as guys who know how to use their power a lot better than Big Ten pass rushers. So due to those constraints, I believe that he should be kicked in to an interior offensive lineman. Even Mel Kiper thinks he should be a center. Don't know about that, but I think that if he can play, technically he can play all 5 positions on the line. I think his best position is at guard, and we're not denying the talent of Rashawn Slater at all. We are, I mean, your board doesn't factor in positional like value, but mine does a little bit, like slightly. So with that being said, I have Rashawn Slater like right next to Darrisaw because of the fact I know he's really talented. He's just hindered by the idea that he just doesn't have the length. Similar to Connor Williams not having the length back a couple years ago and being drafted to the Cowboys as a guard. Don't know if it's that much of a difference, but Rashawn Slater definitely needs to be kicked to the inside to have his best chances at a good career.
And as I said earlier, there was going to be a receiver in the middle teens that I was a lot higher on than most, and you can see that right now with Amon-Ra St. Brown at 15. Mm-hmm. As a Packers fan, obviously you're going to immediately think of Equanimeous St. Brown, and Amon-Ra is on a whole different level. I'll tell you that I think he fit very well in the slot, and you'll see another slot receiver down here with Escridge, who I'm higher on than most as well, as long with you. And I think St. Brown can be a true red zone threat, even though he is only about 6'1". In the few games that I watched, even before his 4-touchdown first quarter, he just blew up on tape to me. He has yak ability. He smooth hands, everything. So that's why I'm a lot higher on him than most. Even I've seen some people have him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds of their mock drafts, which is disappointing to me.
He's round 2 for me, but I need to do more tape study as well. So that's something that I'm like in the question on. I'm in the unknown.
And if I am correct, we both do have Zaven Collins at 19. Mm-hmm. I have not done my full tape study on him, but he could be over Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I have at 9.
Yeah.
Along with that, I have not done as much edge pass rusher study as I need to do. Mm-hmm. I think from what I've seen, Kwity Paye is just a monster as a physical specimen. That 3-cone video, I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
I think you should check that out after this video. Okay. But the 3-cone video, after I saw that, I was like, how can he move that quick at his size? So that's why I have him at the number 1 edge rush right now. Obviously, this pass rush class doesn't have that true number 1 freak that you'll be taking in the top 10, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's why I have him here. As I said earlier, I'm a lot lower on Justin Fields. And, well, not as low as you are on Trey Lance, but those two are kind of very close to me. So as I said earlier, Justin Fields has accuracy issues. I don't think he has the similar, we're differing here, but I don't think he has elite arm strength. And for Trey Lance, going into his film study, I heard that his arm was similar to Josh Allen, and I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, no.
And so that's the level of competition thing doesn't really factor in for me, at least. It's the fact that he doesn't have his progressions are lacking. He has the mobility at least, but his arm strength, his accuracy are off, similar to Justin Fields.
Yeah.
In a sack tackle class, you have Jalen Mayfield, who, like we mentioned earlier, I would love to fall to the Packers. Mm-hmm. Dylan Raduns is Lance's blindside blocker. I would actually take Raduns over Lance if this was a draft, which may be a bit of a hot take considering the positional value, but I think down at the Senior Bowl, he showed against Division I competition what he could do. Definitely. Against guys from Alabama all over the place. Oh, yeah. Similar to Rashawn Slater, I do like Elijah Vera-Tucker. He is someone that can play center or tackle. I think I mentioned him in our Packers podcast last week that he could be a great fit for us, but I think he fits in better as a center than he did at tackle. I didn't see what a lot of people said that they saw from his tape at tackle. I think he was kind of fine, but I think he projects mostly as a center.
Really? So you don't think he can transition as a guard?
Well, I mean, he could transition as a guard, but he was playing tackle, and that's why a lot of people see him playing from what Draft Twitter has said, like we're both part of Draft Twitter and a lot of people have him playing tackle. And I didn't really see the quick foot speed that he needs to have as the tackle against smooth, fast, quick at pass rushers.
Yeah, we're both in that realm. We're both thinking ABT needs to be on the interior.
Yep. Where did you have Tony in your rankings again?
I had him, I think, of around like 21, like very
So
20s.
We're not that far off.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't done enough. Like I haven't done a lot of players, so he could fall, he could raise, whatever. I currently have him as a early to mid second rounder, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I think he is a really good gadget player, slot guy. He really showed out at the Senior Bowl. He, like you said, you were the first guy. He was the first player that you really watched, that you've taken part in noticing. Mm-hmm. For me, he's a guy that I would be comfortable taking in the late first round, early second. It really depends on the scheme fit with a lot of these guys.
I would say one thing. There was a report that apparently the Chiefs were trying to trade up for Henry Ruggs last year before the Raiders took him. I have a sneaky suspicion that losing Sammy Watkins, the Chiefs might trade up for getting another gadget weapon in Kadarius Toney. Do not think it's that crazy of a thought because it seems realistic.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy either, but I could, if they don't take offensive linemen in the first round, I see that as a mistake. Like I would love Elijah Vera-Tucker there. Similar, like actually not similar to you at all. I have 3 safeties here in my top 32. I have both TCU safeties, Morig and Ardarius Washington. A lot of people don't really know who Ardarius Washington is. He's known as the other TCU safety when he isn't even. I was almost closer to putting Ardarius Washington above Morig. It wasn't much of a difference. They both can play free safety at the next level, or they can play a role as a nickel corner, for Ardarius Washington's case anyway. I know you're a bit lower on Dylan Moses, if I am correct, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't done film study on Nick Bolton, Jabril Cox, Chaz Surratt, any of those guys. So this could fall all over the place. I could have Jabril Cox, I could have Nick Bolton here. But right now, I actually wanted the Packers to draft Moses last year's draft because of our complete lack of a competent linebacking core. But Moses is a true Mike linebacker, at least at the next level. He didn't really see the case there this year at Alabama. I think he could translate at the next level pretty easily, given in the right scheme with a competent defensive coordinator. I have, at my last 2 positions here for the first round, technically, I have both UCF secondary players. I have Richie Grant here. I know that you are lower on Richie Grant from our last talk.
You know, I still think he's really good. There's just some plays where, like, we'll talk obviously much more in depth about each player when we do the more positional grade videos. But there's some plays where I got really scared where Richie Grant just totally blew it. It scares me a little bit too much.
I saw those too. There was about once or twice a game, and it would sometimes I'd be like, well, what are you doing on that play? But a lot of the time he's also going up, reading the play, making the tackle, which you don't see from a safety. So similar to Richie Grant as a safety making tackles, Aaron Robinson is probably, from what I've seen so far, the best tackling cornerback in the class. I gave him a 9 out of 10 in this regard. He is physical and I actually remember we were on a phone call while I was watching Aaron Robinson.
Yeah.
And so I was like, holy crap, he actually is making tackles, and it's smooth form. He isn't throwing his shoulder just to make a tackle. He is completely wrapping up and driving through the receiver. I think I haven't done tape study on Elijah Molden. So for me right now, Aaron Robinson is my number 1 slot corner.
Ooh, you'll change your mind. I'll say this. With the fact that both the Niners, the Steelers, as well as the Lions need a slot/nickel corner desperately, do not be surprised if you see Elijah Molden and Aaron Robinson gone day 1. Just saying. It's not gonna be that crazy if that actually happens. So unfortunately, we'll never know until draft day. But like those
That's
are
2 months away.
Yeah, I know. It's we'll see what happens, man. It's gonna be fun. So obviously, guys, we're gonna cut the episode there just so we can like give you guys some more content, some more fun in the next episode. So stick around for it. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Of course, leave your comments, concerns, critiques all that jazz down below. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button of my channel as well. Always, we have so much content coming out all the time here at PTST. So without further ado, I'm about to say goodbye, and I'll let Mason say goodbye as well.
Bye. See you next episode.
Peace. Okay, so